Hi everyone, welcome to our live landing page critique today. This is brought to you by Crazy Egg and Hannapin Marketing. I'll go ahead and let Neil introduce himself. So we've got Neil Patel. Hi Neil, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. So thanks for having me, of course. So my name is Neil, as Sam mentioned. I'm a co-founder of two analytics companies, Crazy and Kissmetrics. Used to be a consultant before that, where I worked with a lot of the Fortune 1000 as well as a lot of small and medium business to help grow the revenue. And during my spare time, I blog on my personal blog, quicksprout.com.
And I'm Sam Owen. I'm an account manager here at Hannapin Marketing. I'm also a CRO specialist, which is why I'm on the webinar today. Hopefully be able to provide some useful insights on some of your landing pages that you've provided. And finally, I blog over at PPC Hero. So that's where you can find some of my conversion rate thoughts if you're ever interested. So the topic today is the landing page clinic, obviously. What we're going to do is just run through very quickly a couple of items here on the PowerPoint, then we're going to dive straight into the live aspect of today. So hopefully it should be a pretty smooth transition. We're going to just give you guys some quick thoughts on what we like, what we don't like, and some things you could possibly test. We got quite a few landing pages here, so obviously we won't be able to go into tons and tons of detail, but what we really hope to do is give you guys a really clear direction of what's lacking and what you could possibly work on. And then finally, I just really quickly wanted to clarify, there's a lot of terminology in landing page testing, and I might say conversion rate optimization, landing pages, CRO, LPO. It all means the same thing, really. It's just making sure that your landing page gets more people who land on it to fill in your form or buy something from you. And if you do want to join the conversation, so if you have any comments on any of these landing pages, if there's anything you particularly want to ask us, perhaps at the end we'll have some time for feedback from your questions, or if we run out of pages to go through, then we can kind of do them on the fly if you submit them. You can contact us at #ThinkPPC, which is our regular webinar hashtag here at Hannapin. And you can also use the question box on GoToMeeting here. So we're going to start just quickly to get you all involved with a quick poll. I'm just going to ask, so what is your primary job role? And the reason I'm asking this is just to try and get a sense of who we have on the webinar today, so what kind of level we want to talk at and suggestions we want to make. So I'll answer this for myself, and then I'll pass it over to Neil. So I'm a hybrid between a PPC account manager and a CRO account manager. So that means I spend about half my time managing SEM PPC accounts, and the other half of the time looking at landing pages and rank tests and trying to make sure those are as good as they possibly can be. What about you, Neil?
Yeah, I personally spend a lot of my time doing just online marketing, from SEO to conversion to email marketing, stuff like that. I also do quite a bit of conversion optimization, and I probably spend 50+% of my time with business related issues.
Cool. And it looks like our results are pretty clear that most people here are online marketing professionals, so PPC, SEO, email, which is good because hopefully that's our crowd. We can speak to you guys without having to dumb anything down too much. A quick second question. So how do you currently manage your CRO work? So this is just interesting because I was wondering what level everyone's at. We've got a lot of people submitting landing pages today, and I'm trying to gauge how much testing they might have already done, or how much you guys out there would have done. Neil, how do you work? How do you do your CRO work?
Sure. So I do a lot of mine in-house. I just do it myself, plan out what tests I want to run, and then work with designers and developers to implement it. I also outsource portions of it. So at the same time, we have two consultants working on our CRO. Just for example, with Crazy, we have a copywriter who's working on our homepage right now, and then we have a company called Conversion Rate Experts who also is helping us with our upsells.
Cool. And then from our end, so we manage it on behalf of clients, and we'll use a few tools out there and possibly work with our clients to make suggestions and to run through tests with them and possibly work with their own in-house teams as well. So it looks like the majority of people either manage the CRO themselves or are part of a team, so that's good. And then we have a few people on there who don't really do much CRO at the moment. So hopefully we should be able to give you guys some good tips. Cool. I'm going to run through this stuff real fast so we can get to the meat of the webinar today, but I didn't want to leave anyone behind. So landing page optimization really, for me at least, is all about testing. So that involves doing some analysis to start, running a test, optimizing your test, redoing your test, analyzing that test, testing again. I really want to try and get out of the mindset of having a list of things that we know works best for CRO. That's probably a little out of date now. Every website works a little different, and really you're going to find what's best by testing. So if you can start to get in that mindset, that's what's going to do best for you. So everything we say today is going to be suggestions based on best practices, but we could very well be wrong, and what we want to do is get your mind ticking over so you can start thinking about what you're going to test. Now, the first stage of that is the analysis side of it. So, Neil, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about how you guys do your kind of early analysis.
Yeah, so the way we usually do our early analysis is mainly through surveying, right? We figure out what objections people have within the product, the site, whatever it may be, specific pages. And then from there, we cross that data over with the analytics and actually see, all right, are what they're saying is matching up. Then before we do any implementations, we actually try to double check the objections we got to make sure that multiple people or enough of them are actually facing the same thing. It could be a price objection, could be that they don't understand the product or service or whatever it may be. And then from there, we start planning out tests. But we're usually doing our analysis through either analytics or surveying tools like Qualaroo and SurveyMonkey.
Cool. And I kind of laid out so some of Hannapin's methodology here. So we normally start kind of qualitatively, which is what we'll be doing on the webinar today, just looking through the site, seeing if there's obvious things that jump out at us. We move on to some user testing. So friends, family, coworkers, surveys, video reviews like usertesting.com provides. Then we'll jump to the analytics side of it. So things like heat maps, which is what Crazy Egg provides, and that's a really cool tool. And then looking at things like your Google Analytics, your conversion funnels, etc., and where you're having problems. And then finally try and see if we can be a bit more clever about it and work out if there's any difference between people coming from different locations or traffic sources, or new versus returning, etc. Now, the aspects of a great landing page, so hopefully trying to give you guys a quick overview of where our minds are at when we look through these sites. So there isn't really a one-size-fits-all solution. There are a few ingredients of a great landing page that are often useful to provide. So I kind of listed those here. So one is the offer. So make sure you have a strong call to action, that your copy sells what it is you're trying to give away or sell, that you have proof so that I have a reason to buy from you or sign up, that I trust your site. So if anything screams scam to me, that's going to kill your conversion rate, that there aren't any obstacles. So if I'm trying to buy and something's not working or it's not obvious where I need to go, it's going to kill your conversion rate. And then just that your images are clear and that they are really useful in kind of selling what you have alongside your copy. So the main message is trying to get rid of clutter that doesn't help any of these things. These are kind of the key ingredients to a landing page. Anything else is probably not going to be too relevant. I don't know if you have any thoughts there, Neil.
Yeah, it's totally correct, and that's actually the biggest problem I see in the whole space. Everyone is a real big believer in one size fits all, right? What works for one person won't work for the next. And the funny thing is if you actually look at two companies, let's say you look at your site and another site in the PPC marketing space. What works for you from a conversion standpoint won't always work well for someone else. But people think, oh, they're in a PPC space, I'm in the PPC space, or they're in the furniture business space and I'm in the furniture business space. They're doing well, so if I replicate my site based off of theirs, I'll do extremely well, but it doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So I think it's funny, a lot of what's considered best practice in landing pages is actually just people copying each other, assuming that someone else knows best. So that's why we really believe in testing. So for sure, test out how your competitors have their layouts if you think they're good and see if it's better than yours. But it's not always just because that's how it's done, that's how it's done best. All right. Thankfully, we kind of rushed through that, so we can get right to the kind of meat of our webinar today, which is our live landing page clinic. So we got a few sites here that were submitted to us beforehand. I'm going to kind of read off what the objectives were for these pages, just to give you guys a bit of background, and then I'll pass this first one over to Neil in a second. So this one comes from Double Horn Communications. The goals for this landing page are to have the form filled out to get the information, obviously, and to provide information to the user about their service, and to get some brand awareness out there too. So I'm going to throw this one over to you, Neil, and see what thoughts you have on it.
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is if you're looking for more form fields, what I would consider doing is removing the fields that aren't necessarily needed. So you're doing job title, company, phone number, number of employees, stuff like that. A lot of the form fields, like number of employees, you can look it up once you actually have company name, right? Because all this information is public when you Google. The other thing is I would test different call to actions, like contact us today, you know, learn more, whatever it may be, and also test more contrasting colors versus just green on blue. The other thing I would actually do is explain what a trunk is, right? Your ideal audience may understand it, but a lot of people like me, when I first look at this, 5-day installation, $9 a trunk. I have no clue what a trunk is, right? Maybe your traffic is very specific where your users know what that is. But I would consider putting a lot more information above the fold than just trying to get a form field out there and collect information. Because what I found is two things. One, always having a form field above the fold doesn't necessarily help you get more leads than actually having it below the fold. It's all about the pitch. If people are really into the pitch and what you're offering and all that, they'll scroll a bit and fill out the form fields. The other thing too, by testing things like that out and putting more information above the fold, you may also get much more relevant leads, right? I'd rather have 50 really qualified leads than 100 leads in which 90% of them are junk. So by really explaining what you do, you'll also be saving a lot of time and money because then your sales reps won't have to go through and sift through a lot of leads that are useless and won't be able to convert. So those are my main recommendations, and you can actually end up testing things like putting the video above the fold versus lower on the page, right, and putting more information up top, reducing form fields, reducing how many options there are with the navigation, and focusing on the main points. Any feedback on your end, Sam?
Sure. So I've tried to come into these a little blind, hopefully just to notice the things that spring out at me. One is that I really don't know what your company's providing, right? So I see your main call to action, or your main headline, sorry, and just like Neil said, I'm kind of wondering, okay, where's the benefit? So I see the features, but I don't really see the benefits. So that could be something you focus on. What is it? Tom Hoopman, our director of sales, says, "Sell the sizzle, not the steak." So maybe think about how it's going to impact me to want to click and come and buy from you. Another interesting one, just looking at the form, which is one Neil talked about. So a few of these you could drop down, like number of employees. You could have a drop down there instead of just putting a number in, because that's one of those things that, even though it seems really small, in my mind just creates a mental block. So I don't really know the exact number of employees Hannapin has. Then I have to think, what am I going to estimate it as? Am I going to just put down something close? Am I supposed to say that information? You could just have a drop down of like, under 10, 10 to 25, 25 to 50, etc. And then the other one really was just making sure that it's kind of set up to be as focused on this form call to action as possible. So Neil kind of mentioned removing some of the navigation. That would be a possible test, and then making it stand out a little more so it's kind of blended in with the image up here. But those are my suggestions. So obviously you guys, if you have any suggestions of your own, you can tweet them at us or add them in the comments, and we'll try and get around to them at the end as well. The second one here we've had submitted by Olivia at the Michigan State University Veterinary Teaching Hospital, and their goals are to get contact information out there, to get information about services for potential clients, and information about specialty service for referring veterinarians. So I got a few things on this one. I'll just kind of scroll down so you guys can see what the page looks like. So my first one is that you're using the rolling headline or rolling title image, which I'm not a big fan of. And the main reason is I think that it kind of dilutes your message a little bit. So if you had a really strong call to action or information headline out there, that would probably be a better bet than rolling around. And one of the other reasons for that is that this kind of more button is up here and then it jumps away. So my eyes aren't really focused and reading your message. The other one is that the headlines themselves are a little weak. So I might try something that's a little more focused on like saying exactly what you do, or it could be, you know, great vet care for animals of all shapes and sizes, just something that really makes it obvious exactly what I'm here for. So information for clients is kind of fine, but it's a little bland, a little confusing. I mean, I might click it, but not necessarily bound to. And the other side of it is also just, if I land at a teaching hospital website, just something to reassure me that you're actually taking in vets rather than just looking for people to come and be students with you. So those were kind of the main things that, yeah, those were the main things that jumped out at me. I don't know if you had any, Neil.
Yeah, so one of the things I would say is worth testing. If you really like the rolling carousel, because some people like it and they don't want to remove it, and they have this big spot and their design team doesn't necessarily know how to fill it, or they just think it's too much work. What I recommend doing is, if you want to have something like that, try out Slide Deck. And what Slide Deck can help you do is, you can have a rolling carousel, but you can have call to actions, different messages, and each carousel doesn't have to be the same. You can pretty much customize it just like you're customizing a web page in any form, and it's really easy to do. And you know, they have some WYSIWYG tools to make it really easy for you. But we tested that out, I think a year and a half ago, maybe a bit longer than that. But we were able to boost our conversion, I think, by like 20% or so, by making it custom and having a ton of call to actions in there and making it based off of benefits and objections, based on what users have when they're coming to the site.
Cool. We'll move on to the next one. So this is uslegalforms.com. This was submitted by Ian. So his key goals for this landing page are to improve upon bounce rate, to improve e-commerce conversion rates for business forms by creating stronger calls to action, and to allow small business owners to quickly and easily find the forms for which they're looking. So this is a website that gives you all the legal forms you need to set up your small business without having to go through too complicated of a procedure. So Neil, I'll throw this one over to you to start.
Sure. So the first one, the bounce rate, I wasn't sure exactly why you want to improve or reduce it. The thing I've learned is bounce rates are a vanity metric, in which whether it goes up or down, it doesn't necessarily matter, because I've seen it go up and have a big boost in conversion rates, and I've seen it go down and have a big boost in conversion rates, right? Like, the bounce rate doesn't necessarily impact how many more sales you're going to get, or searches, or so forth and so on, right? All that means is a portion of your visitors are going to bounce. Maybe those visitors weren't relevant in the first place. So when you're trying to get more sales, the thing I would do is sprinkle call to actions throughout your whole site when it's related to products or services that people can buy, right? The other thing I would do is, you have a search bar. One of your goals is to help people find documents they need. So let's say someone wants to set up a corporation in California. Well, the chances are if someone lives in California, they're probably going to be setting up a corporation in California, right? Unless they're living in Nevada, it's rare that someone goes to California. The only state that I would say that people try to set up a corporation in when they don't live in that state is typically Delaware. But I would actually do GeoBase. So you see, select your state. If you see that I'm coming from a California IP, I would make that default option California. So that way it makes it a bit easier upon people. And you have a ton of navigation menu items when it comes to finding documents. One way is just letting people click through. Another way, which we've seen interesting work really well through tests, is kind of like a questionnaire. So, the first thing would be like, what can I help you with? And you can give them a few options based off the most popular choices. And you can even put like, which state are you looking to, create a corporation or whatever. They say, hey, I'm here to create a corporation. Which state are you here to corporation? On a map, you can have them click the state. And once you get them through, you click, all right, based on everything, we've gotten from you, here's what you need, and give it to them. And then from there, you can even upsell them on other things, right? Like, oh, you can buy this for X dollars, or here's, something else that you could use that could help you out and save you money or whatever it may be. But we found that to be very solving two problems. And one, it creates more engagement, so people are more likely to use whatever they're finding on your site. Two, they're also more likely to buy from you because they've gone through a whole process and engage, and what you're giving them is really tailored to their needs. That they're actually more likely to check out or buy due to the whole process that they just went through.
Cool. Those are a lot of good tips. We had a question, Neil. So, what do you think about the live chat option in the top right there?
Yeah, the live chat's not bad. I've seen live chat work really well, and I've seen it fail miserably. I would test it. Like for Crazy Egg, we found that live chat on the front end of our site, we haven't tested it in over a year, but when we did, it actually decreased conversions. But we found out that live chat within our internal application increases conversion rates from free trial to paid, right? In other words, it decreases how many people cancel their free trial. So I think you should just test it out and see what works best for you. Try it with it or without it. The big thing, at least with this live chat, which is good, if someone's not online, you shouldn't show that option at all. If someone is online, it's fine to show the live chat option.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I had a similar experience. I had it for a legal client, and it seemed to make no difference pretty much from having it on or off. It just changed whether we had conversions through the online chat or whether we had it through the form that was there, but the numbers stayed pretty much the same.
Exactly. What I found out is if you do a good job explaining your product, services, your benefits, why someone should use you, what they're going to get out of it, they probably don't need a live chat, right? Where they usually need a live chat is after they bought and something didn't go right, or they need help with it, or whatever it may be. If they need it on the front end, you're typically not doing a good job explaining the benefits or what you're offering.
So I'm going to jump in with a couple of things I noticed as well. So the first one was just doing like a 5-second look at the page and then look away. And I kind of thought to myself, I got that it was legal forms, so that was good. But my eyes didn't really know where to look when I came back. So there's a lot going on the page. It might be something you want to work out just with the layout of the page and having it really obvious where you want people to go to. So like one call to action possibly, it could be that you have like find legal forms as a call to action. And once people click that, then they get the list of all the different legal forms they could possibly look for. And then the other one that kind of struck me was this this picture of Dave Ramsey over here. It was just a little distracting because that's actually what my eye saw when I landed on the page. Like I looked straight over there. And I found from my testing, I don't know if you've seen the same thing, Neil, but generally images of people actually don't do as well as images of just random generic items that are something to do with your product. That's something to test, but I've always seen that generally people staring at you are just too distracting on a page. Like your eyes go straight to someone looking at you.
Yeah, the time I found that people to actually work out really well is when you have call to actions and you're selling something based off of a brand, and that person in the image is looking at the call to action. So it's
Okay.
something to test.
Yeah, that sounds like a good test. If you can't find stock images that are staring directly at your call to action, it might be worth trying a couple of non-people stock images, but I've definitely seen that as well, Neil. Cool. So this next one is QC Event School, and that's sent over to us by Kayla. And the goals here are to convert visitors to leads through the free brochure sign up on the left-hand side here, to inform visitors of promotions, which is that we've gone digital this month, and to serve as a touch point from AdWords. So the landing page essentially. So I'll kick off here with a few things I've noticed. So I actually really like the design. It's very clean and kind of stylish. The form is nice because you don't have too many options. So I'm not put off by the fact I only have to put my email address in. The how did you hear about us might be a little unnecessary, but it's still good. You've given me options for what I actually want to get, but you haven't put me off by asking for name, social security number, list of likes and dislikes, etc. So that was like positive in general. Then if I want to think about things I might improve on this site, so the first one is that what should be the main focus of your page every time is either your call to action or your headline. And what it actually is on this page when I look is the We've Gone Digital. So if the We've Gone Digital is the most important thing on your page, that's great. But if it isn't, that's where I'm looking every single time. So that might be something you want to think about. Maybe you just make it like a smaller deal on the page, or not so standout-ish with colors. It could be that you make this the kind of bluey green colors, and your headline stands out more with the orange. Other than that, your button here is just kind of a little tucked away. You might want to make it more obvious, and your colors are maybe like a little too complementary. So things kind of merge into one. So your headline's kind of merging into your little image here, and the gray and the light green blue are not too easy to distinguish. So you might want to think about how you kind of mix that up. And then finally, just the call to action of what you're actually selling. So it says fill out the form and we'll email you a free brochure, which is great, but I don't really know what I'm here for. So I'm like looking around, and it's not until I read this little part of text that I realize it's to start a successful career as a party planner. So it could be, fill out the form to get started on the adventure of party planning, or something that's super corny, but just something that makes it obvious to me when I read your headline what I'm actually there for. What thoughts did you have, Neil?
Yeah, so similar to you on the call to action, the big thing I would end up testing, right? So I would just change totally the get your free brochure by email box, right? More than just using using complementary colors, like you mentioned. Or using colors that stand out, but it would also be by offering something else. A lot of times, a great way to get a name and email, and is just purely by giving them something for free. An ebook, right? A brochure usually pitches a service, but if you give them something else, like tips on how they could, learn something or whatever it may be related to the industry you're in, like event school, right? You could actually get more emails. The other thing is you should probably never ask, how did you hear about us? And the reason being is, in most cases, not all, but you can end up determining just by analytics, because it'll show refer source, Google, or NewYorkTimes.com. If there's New York Times, the print ad, that's different. You're not going to be able to find that out, right? Or you can have a specific URL within the New York Times ad to try to get people to go to, and you can market in your system as, hey, this lead came from the New York Times.
Cool. So hopefully there's a few things that you can test from those suggestions. We're going to move on quickly to protection one. This was submitted by Stephen, and the goals here are to have the visitor call the phone number on the page, to have the visitor fill out the contact form, and to introduce the product, which is the Protection One home security system. So Neil, I'll let you kick this one off.
Yeah, overall, I think it's pretty good. I would test, modifying where you place the phone number and the form field. And the reason being is from tests I've run, when you place the number and a form field together, it's like you're asking for two things versus one thing. I would test having the form field on the left versus the right, different text. I try to avoid button red. It could end up working for you, but for me, usually I find like red being alert, bad, so forth, so on, like stop. But in your case, you're also a security company, and red could work out really well. I've also found that fear is another way to get people to potentially buy. So using stats like, did you know 1 out of every 3 homes that's broken into gets broken into when the family is actually home, right? Stuff like that. Do you want to keep your family safe? Why engage? You know, call us for your free consultation on your security evaluation or whatever it may be. But I would try a few of those things out and see what ends up happening.
Yeah, those make a lot of sense to me. On the stats side, I think I looked up one as well, Neil, that was people with a home security system typically only get like $3,000 worth of stuff stolen from their house, whereas without get something like 5,500. So if you could dig up the stat that I just pulled out of the air there, that could be another interesting thing to throw down. But I really liked this landing page in general. I thought there was a lot good with it. Like I knew exactly what you were selling. I knew some of your biggest benefits, which you're trying to sell on the price being low, because that's lower than some other prices I've seen for home security systems. It's really obvious what I'm getting because you do a good job at just showing it. And then you have kind of a few key benefits as well. And the form is nicely laid out. There's a few things I'd potentially change here. So one worth testing is maybe the image here. I don't know if that's, again, it's something distracting, or maybe that is good because it's playing on the fear of your children being home when you're burgled. So is burgled a word in America? I don't think. I apologize for my Britishness, by the way. We say burgled rather than burglarized. So my colleague here is laughing about it. But in general, I mean, it could be something that's good. So it might be something to throw into the test. You have all of these fields starred. If they're all compulsory, it might not be necessary to star them all just because it makes it a little messier looking. And then the contrast here between the gray and the white and the black may be something to work on. But generally, I was a fan. I didn't have too many problems with this page. The next one I'm going to jump on is from Juan, and the goals here are to increase the zip code submit, to increase the zip code submit, and to increase the zip code submit. So very, very focused on the one aspect of conversions that we're trying to achieve. So it makes a lot of sense. I'll kick this one off, Neil. So the first thing I noticed was that the title of the website's up there, MedicareSupplement.com, but I'm still thinking a little bit about what you guys actually do. So in my mind, I'm working out for you that this is going to be somewhere I can find supplements, but it's not explicitly stated for me. Now it's up here, so maybe I'm selling it a little short, but maybe you could do something a little different with your headlines. So just making it obvious, like find find supplements for cheaper in your area, or something along those lines, and kind of go with the rest of it. The other things I noticed were that it pulls in the state, so that's something that Neil mentioned earlier, so that's good. We're based here in Indiana, and it's worked that out for me. So that's kind of one of those things that makes me trust that I'm in the right place, that this is going to find something for me, so that should be helpful. And then what else did I find? That you might want to try changing this image. So I watch a lot of TV, and every single medical commercial has people walking along the beach in old age. And it's, I don't know if maybe it's great, but it feels a little tired to me. Maybe it would be, you could show images of supplements, or something along those lines that is just a little less cliche. But then again, I don't know if maybe because we've had so many years of people walking along the beach on TV selling drugs that it might actually be that they automatically associate the two. But definitely something worth testing. Neil, I don't know if you had any thoughts, particularly on the big pulsing yellow arrow.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I don't know if the arrow works better or not, but definitely test that. Test different colors of that. Uh, and your call to action is a bit generic. Click here, compare plans. It's free. I would use something. I would try testing something more related to the product, right? Medicare supplements. Compare Medicare supplement plans or something like that as a call to action. And the other thing I would actually do is see if you can give more information, right? And the reason being is I don't know if everyone actually knows what Medicare supplements are. Maybe your target audience does, but if someone random comes to the site looking for Medicare stuff for their parents, right, and trying to help them out, because a lot of people who are 65 plus aren't necessarily the most computer savvy people, just general information would be great. Maybe some trust symbols, because I've personally experienced that people, in the 65 plus range are worried about doing things like putting information online or the credit card or whatever. Maybe I know you're not necessarily asking for that, but in general, they're a bit more wary about that kind of stuff. So some
Hey,
trust
Neil.
symbols I think would be great. Yeah.
Neil, I'm just going to jump in because I think in our efforts to try and go in blind to some of these that we've misread what they're about. So this is actually a supplemental insurance for Medicare um, rather than supplements as in drugs. So maybe there's an instant feedback on the form is that I didn't know that's what it was. So you could say supplemental insurance to benefit your Medicare. So apologies that I got that wrong. It's a little embarrassing. I will say I can use my Britishness again because we have universal healthcare. So I know nothing really too much about health insurance, and I always complain about it in the office here. But yeah, so we kind of missed that, but that's probably your biggest flag right there is that the two of us kind of missed that. I don't know if you have any thoughts now, Neil, that I've kind of said that.
Yeah, like you said, I think explaining that would be useful. I can see it now in the easy three steps. It pretty much talks about how you can, it's a Medicare supplemental insurance. And I would actually use some stats talking about how Medicare doesn't cover that much, right? And how supplementing your Medicare insurance is a good thing. It's affordable, so forth, so on. But talking about those kind of things and the risk of not having it, because elderly people are typically a bit more worried or paranoid, like, oh, what if something happens? Who's going to take care of me? Or how can I afford this? Or whatever it may be. So I think it would be really good to break down some of those things above the fold.
Awesome. So hopefully now we finally cleared up what that page does. And I walk away a little more embarrassed, but we'll skip on to the next one. So this is submitted by Tim. This is myprivatebloodtest.com. It's a service that offers you a blood test you can order online rather than go through your doctor and check for all different types of ailments you might have. So the goals here are to get people to order the blood test, and the secondary goal is the tell me more button we have on the left-hand side. So I'll let you kick this one off, Neil.
Yeah, so I used to work with a testing company in the past called LabSafe. And the one objection we actually ended up learning from a business like this is people don't necessarily know when they're ordering these tests, wait, do they happen online? Like, do you just mail it to me and it's all done through my home? Or do I have to go somewhere and do it myself? Or someone does it for me, right? People don't know a lot of these things. I would actually survey people who are bouncing or exiting, in other words, find out why they're not buying. And you can do that to like Qualaroo or SurveyMonkey, upon exit, show them it. Mainly through Qualaroo, SurveyMonkey's more through email. But I would actually find out those things out and adjust my copy to explain a lot of those things. I would also change things like your order now buttons from being blue to test different colors because your site has a lot of blue and green. Tell me more and order now are the same exact color, right? I also don't know if they're buttons or if they're banners across it, right? But like on a first glance. So a reader may not know that, hey, these are buttons. Because in many cases it looks like, oh, I have two big images, in the middle of some text. And making them look more like buttons versus images, I think could help quite a bit.
So I had some of the same thoughts as you there, Neil. So one is just where do I get this done? Like, do I go into a center? How do I know that it's going to be in my state? These are just things that are kind of making me think, like, should I go through this, or am I just going to bail out? It could be that you do the same thing as one of those previous sites where it pulls in like the little state icon of Indiana or wherever you guys happen to be based and says that it works in that state. Then also just a little more information on, like, does it work with insurance or is it just entirely privately paid? So I guess there's a little bit of information here. And then I kind of agree with you, Neil, that maybe you actually want to run some analytics on this page. So this could be something you use like a crazy egg for, because there's so much going on in terms of information. What you should probably do is try and work out what it is your visitors are actually looking at or scrolling to, or where they're mousing over the most. So any kind of heat map software could be a good place to go here. Perhaps that they're really looking, scrolling over the different diseases, in which case you could talk more about what the test will find. Maybe they're looking more at the price, in which case you're probably doing a fairly good job of highlighting that. Or maybe they're really interested in the insurance side of it and working out what it's actually going to cost if they're uninsured or insured, etc. So in general, it's like there's a lot going on. The call to action buttons, I probably agree with Neil that we could like either homogenize them so they're all the same, or just make them stand out a little different so it doesn't look like it's part of the image in the background. The next one we're going to look at is education career articles. So the first goal here is to look at I guess people who submit the goals a little different, but to look at the design layout of this page because it's a little different from the ones we've already had. Then we want to see if the content is clear and concise, and then see if the call to action is good. So one thing I'll say, this one's a little different. So what it's trying to do is be an information article, I guess, about nurses with high salaries, and then when people have learned a little more, the idea is to get them to request info about nursing schools from different schools that are out there, so University of Phoenix, etc. So you could do this a little different. The kind of informational approach has worked in the past on some clients I've seen, but generally it leads to, I would say, like, not enough direct action. So that's the problem that you're probably going to experience here. So maybe like change the headline up to something more direct. It could be like why a career in nursing might be right for you, and then, or why switching your career to nursing could earn you up to $150,000 a year. And then you have your article, which is very information focused, to build credibility, which is, I guess, what you're getting in this. But still kind of focus it a little bit on why they actually, what their follow-up to this information is going to be. And then you're kind of find a school thing. So I guess you've got lots of different ways for them to find it. It could be that you can consolidate that a little bit because they come down here and they have the options, they have the different options here. It could be that you either do it one way or the other. And then your find a school call to action next, something that you might want to test as well. Neil?
Yeah, so this page, it's obvious that you want people to find a school because that's how you're making money. But it's so obvious and you're doing it so much, I don't know if you're pushing people away. There's cleaner ways to do it. One thing I'll look at is Bounce Exchange. It's somewhat expensive, but it converts really well, and education leads are worth a lot, so you probably can make it profitable assuming you're getting enough traffic. In which, when someone's upon exit and they're moving their cursor fast enough upon the exit area or the backband or URL bar, it'll give them an offer, and those guys are pretty good at designing in a non-spammy way, and see if they can collect you more leads. But they're usually able to boost lead conversions on a page like this by around like 20 to 35%.
Cool. We'll jump ahead to our next one, which is uh, the green sheet. So this is submitted by Tara. So they're looking for someone to fill out the form right here and to give them information about their advertising solutions kit. They want phone calls as well, and they have the email us option here as well that people can click on to convert. So I'll let you kick off again, Neil.
Yeah, so I'll figure out what you get more of. Do you get more phone calls or do you get more opt-in leads? If you're getting more phone calls, highlight the phone number more. If you want more opt-in leads, what I would do is try to shift the design. The top part takes up a lot of resources, but I would try to push a lot of the information over to the left or the right, pick one area, boost the form field up, so then that way you actually have the whole form field, including the call to action above the fold, and you can try to do things where they read the information on the left and it transitions with the right arrow into the right side, which is where all the form fields are. That's something we're testing, and if you find out that you close most people over the phone versus email, even if they fill out a form field, you could just ask them less questions. Because whether it's print advertising or online banners or other, if you're closing people over a phone, you can ask them those kind of questions over the phone versus, through the form field itself, because it's just more and more button clicks. And the more you ask people, typically, not always, the less you're going to get when it comes to quantity of fill-ups.
And then a couple of things I picked out here. So the call to action is a little bit generic. It's good, but it doesn't really tell me anything specific. So maybe a little more insight in your headline or the top of your page. It just tells me local business advertising that gets you customers, something along those lines, just to really get me in the mindset that, hey, this might be something that was going to be useful for my business. Then in terms of like some of the things I talked about in the PowerPoint earlier, so the offer, I don't really know what I'm getting beyond advertising. Like I don't know exactly where you're advertising. I don't know if it's going to be in Indiana. I don't know if you have contacts there. So maybe some kind of like proof and trust markers on top of that. So for proof, maybe like examples of advertising you do, some stats, like we advertise to X million people every week through local business banners, and then examples. It might be just a screenshot or something, and then trust markers, just how you helped business A achieve more revenue through your advertising. So anything along those lines, maybe a testimonial, because those are the things that are kind of missing from this page. Like if I want to advertise with you that I don't really see, that doesn't get me to want to contact you. And then apart from that, the form is laid out like in a slightly different manner to normal. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just kind of a little grayed out and hard to read. And then the continue button could maybe be more compelling of a call to action. So, something like find out more about making money from advertising in your area. That's probably too wordy, but just something that conveys that message rather than just continue. So that's kind of what I had on that page. Then we've got a few other websites here that we're going to try and run through really quickly for you guys. These were submitted, but we didn't have any additional information about them in terms of what their goals were. So we're just going to do like a quick look at them, give you our top couple of comments, and move on. So Neil, I'll let you jump in on this one.
Sure. So I'm guessing you're looking for more people to request a code. Try things like Bounce Exchange. You have a not quite ready, pick one below. I think you're trying to do a lot of things on this page. You're pretty much just trying to be like, hey, convert. If you don't want to convert into one of these other things. I would just test offering one little thing. This page, when I look at it, doesn't offer too many trusts, especially when it comes to like savings-based investment property management company. I want to see what you've done in the past, right? Because you're usually dealing with property, other people's money, whatever it may be. So I think adding some trust elements and focusing on one thing versus trying to get people to convert it to a few different options may work better for you.
And I think for me, the biggest thing I noticed was just where is this? Because I think with real estate and rentals, location is the biggest thing I think about. So is this, for me, is this going to be in Indiana? Is this going to be in Bloomington? Or is this just something from out somewhere else? So maybe just something that says like across the US or mentions the specific location, especially as I don't recognize the area code. Gatwick Hotels. So this is a site that's obviously looking for people to find hotel room nights and book online. I think the image is pretty good. You've got a search section here that's pretty clear. You have a few different options, so whether it's hotels or parking or just parking. So there's some good functionality there. They're probably the main things I'm looking for. In terms of potential things you could do, you could possibly change up the room types here to be more focused on how I would normally think about booking a hotel room, which is like number of rooms, number of adults, and number of nights, which I guess you have the check-in and the return. But generally, there's not too much that screams out at me here. Maybe testing something with the search button. What do you think, Neil?
I would look at the data and see what average people do. Do they pick a king size bed, double bed? Do they usually pick a second room? Because if they don't, then don't show them that option. Just show them like a tick box. I would like a second room, right? For number of days, you can put in, today's date, or if you notice that people usually book out a month in advance, fast forward the date to 30 days from now. And then if you notice that people on average only book a stay for 2 days, right now you have the difference between the 11th and the 19th. So if the average is 2 days, and set 2 days as the option. Don't set 7 days as the default.
Cool. This is Cross Country Mortgage Incorporated. So refinance today and lower your mortgage payments with an FHA loan. Okay, so the headline there is pretty clear about what I'm doing, which I like. Let's have a look at the form. So it doesn't really ask me any personal information, which I guess is probably good because that, that's not putting me off. The kind of color scheme maybe could do with a little work. I don't know if that's like a company thing or not, but there's a lot of similar colors overlapping and things don't really stand out too well. Neil, quick thoughts?
Yeah, it's not bad. I've always found it weird when I see blank form fields like under loan program or property use. I would try to select the default, or most people would select. And I would put more secure elements. I know you have like a lock or we respect your policy. But at the end of the day, with anything related to finance or mortgage or anything like that, I think all that is really important just for building trust elements. And I would put like things like what is it called, FDIC insured or whatever it may be. I know you're not dealing with money, like as in you're not holding people's bank money, but I would show some symbols that you're trusted by the government, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing I wanted to mention that I've seen with some testing and seen mentioned at a couple of conferences as well. So this approach to doing your benefits or your features with just having like 6 or 7 tick boxes, maybe something that most people could even work on is really highlighting which of those you think is your biggest feature. So it could be rates as low as 2.99%, and then also get tick, tick, tick. Finally, all of these come as standard, tick, 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 tick. So the reason for that, and I'm sorry if I didn't explain that too clearly, when you look at a list, you generally don't remember all 7 things, but you'll remember the most important one if it was clearly highlighted to you as the most important thing. So if you were to go away and then talk to, if I was to talk to my wife and she was to say to me, well, why would we want to refinance? And then I could say, okay, it's because the rates are 2.99%. And then the other stuff isn't important. It's the one thing that I wanted to tell her that's going to get her to come back or ask me to look at the website again. So that's just some quick thought I had there. Neil, do you want to jump in with this page?
Sure. So same thing. I'm assuming you're trying to do form fields. I would test out putting like there's a ton of bullet points above the fold. I would try testing out putting less information, but hammer in specific benefits. And in many cases, your path to career success, when it's stuff like this and you're trying to help people with, whatever it may be related to their career, you could try to create a video, like one of those overview videos with people talk about the benefits you do, some of the people that went through the course or the package or whatever it may be that you guys are offering and the results, and let them share some of their stories. So that goes into testimonials and case studies, but it's visual. And when it comes to careers and employment and stuff like that, what I found is real life examples convert better than just text on the page saying, oh wow, this program here helped me do X, Y, and Z.
Cool. We'll skip through and do one each just so we can get hopefully through these before time runs out. So this is Aura MD, the mouth doctor. So this is a supplement, I guess, or like a, what's the word I'm looking for? My brain's gone. Mouthwash that you could, excuse me, there, 3-in-1 toothpaste, mouthwash, and breath freshener. Thanks to the page for bailing me out there. That you can use. So customer reviews, I like that. I think maybe like the Facebook thing is a little too in there. I guess it's going to be useful to show that there's a lot of people using the product, but at the same time, it's kind of like where my focus is going, a little too much on Facebook, possibly. You show the product, which is good. The page maybe could do with some design updates, so it looks a little out of date. Let's see what else I notice on here. The buy now button's pretty solid, but it could just be that it kind of like gets lost under the big Facebook banner here. So there's not too much necessarily I would change. E-commerce pages are kind of always a little trickier. Maybe think about what your main selling point is and highlight that. Neil, did you have anything quick on this one, as I didn't pull out too much?
Yeah, I would test add to cart versus buy now. With physical products, I found that add to cart is less committal than buy now. So typically when they do that first, it boosts conversions.
Cool. These are Yunnan tours for China. Neil?
Yeah, so I found with tours or anything like that, more visual appealing images do better. So like higher resolution images, more details. You're trying to get people to book tours and you give very little information up front. You're saying book now, more details you provide, customer experiences. I think all those things are really important. Like I myself wouldn't book a 9-day tour with just one paragraph of text, right? I would want to learn a lot more. What am I getting? Accommodations, how does it all work? Price, right? I think this is one of those pages where details and more text actually can help you quite a bit versus just trying to get people to click a buy now button.
Yeah, I think for me the key would be to change maybe the book now to learn more or something along those lines. I'll just have a quick look. So you do find out more about the package when you go through. So the get a quote is there once there. So you could definitely change it to something that's going to get more people to click through without feeling like they have to commit to doing anything. Bestbathrooms.com. So I guess this is an e-commerce landing page for different sinks and bathroom equipment. Neil, did you want to jump in here?
Yeah, the big thing, if I would have to focus on one change, is you have some items in stock, but how do I add them, right? It's just like a link like that, 84 pounds ink VAT, the one on the right. It's like, how do I actually buy it? There's no real buy buttons.
Yeah, so you have to go through to the product page first, whereas an add to cart button might be, or add to basket.
Yep, and now you could do like a quick view where they hover over the product. I don't know if Amazon does it. They could be a good example, but you hover over the product and it shows you more details.
Okay, makes sense. We'll try and run through these last couple before you guys all disappear. So Lick Media, how to drive inquiries and sales. So I assume you're in some kind of advertising agency or video production. So my biggest thing is probably just that I'm not 100% sure exactly what it is that you're selling me straight off the bat. So are you an agency? What exactly is it that you create? So just reading through here. So so it looks like it's online video production. So maybe just make that really obvious. Make it so that's the key part of your page, then include some stats about why that's great, how it's going to help, and then your find out more field is pretty clear. I mean, the colors are all in line with the rest of your site. Do you have anything big you picked out here, Neil?
You pretty much got it. I think if I were them, I would just focus on explaining your message and what you do and what's the benefit, because I have no clue going through it.
Floors to your home. So the biggest one that jumps out at me right away is that you have this video right at the very top of the page, like before a headline or anything, or before images of the flooring I'm buying. And that's great if this is like a super relevant video that's telling me all about your different floor types, but it looks like it might just be a instructional video, so it's not necessarily the most relevant thing. So that would be something that possibly I would have like on the individual pages or at the bottom of the page, rather than as the key focus for my landing page. And we'll just jump ahead real quick. Neil, do you want to grab this one?
Sure. So Divetic Live, entering your information for a free meter. I would have an image of what it looks like, right? I would remove the social buttons. I don't know how many people are actually sharing it from that page versus, you got other people to promote it. If a lot of people are promoting it on the page, that's fine, but I think it's a distraction of people getting their free meter. I would just put an image, show what they're going to get, talk about how it's an awesome product, and get people to put in their information.
Yeah, it seems like the idea to sign up comes before actually telling you what it is you're signing up for. So maybe some kind of rearrangement of your call to action and your copy there that just makes it a little clearer about what people are getting and why they would want to get it before you ask them for all their insurance information. Cool. So that takes us back to our slide. Thanks to everyone, by the way, who submitted their sites. I know it was a little nerve-wracking to have people criticize your work, so really appreciate those, and obviously Neil and I just wanted to say thanks for that. So we're just going to wrap up with quick question if anyone out there wants any help with their CRO or PPC management. So it's just a final quick poll. If you are interested in a 60-day free trial of Crazy Egg, which is part of the partnership here at PPC Hero and Hannapin, you can just select that and we'll get in touch with you about that. Crazy Egg's an awesome tool, by the way. It gives you heat maps. We use it here with our CRO work and just helps you work out where on your landing pages your users are looking and where you're having problems. And if any of you out there are interested in some PPC and CRO management, we can handle the day-to-day management of your PPC account, and we include premium CRO management and testing as part of that. So if anyone is interested, just answer the poll and we can get in touch with you. And then finally, if you have any more questions, you can get on Twitter at ThinkPPC and talk to us there, or if you have any direct feedback, you can contact marketing@hannapinmarketing.com. So I think that's it for our webinar today. Thanks for joining us, Neil.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's great. And if, like I said, if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us afterwards.